Welcome to the Breakdown with Brianna. On today's episode, I just got home and heard the good news that Indiana redistricting is dead. So let's talk about it. If you have not been paying attention, Indiana's redistricting battle has been going on for months. Voted today in Indiana to redistrict, and it died. It did not have the Senate votes. So if you didn't know, Indiana has been battling redistricting for several months. Basically, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have been calling our state senators, as well as our governor and lieutenant governor, wanting Indiana to redistrict mid-decade so that they can steal two current Democrat congressional seats for the Republican Party, because they are afraid of losing majority in the House of Representatives this midterms because their policies are so wildly unpopular. But instead of just getting better policies so that they can remain in power, they're determined to double down on the bullshit and continue the Heritage Foundation's horrible Project 2025. So, in Indiana, they have been trying to steal these seats. It went through the House, which we knew would happen, but today it got a vote on the Senate and it did not go through, so Indiana's redistricting is dead. We are not going to redistrict because the Senate did not have the votes, which is what I reported to you a couple weeks ago, and that remains true. Indiana Senate voted today, and it voted 31-19 against congressional redistricting that was called for by President Trump, attempting to help Republicans win the 2026 midterm elections. So Indiana will not be redistricted. So I just want to point out that yes, there are several Republicans that did their job. They listened to their constituents that they did not want to be redistricted. That does not mean that they listen to their constituents the rest of the time. Please make sure that before the midterms, you are checking to see what your state senator has been voting on. But every single one of the state senators who voted to redistrict Indiana should be voted out of office, because it has been made overwhelmingly clear by Hoosiers that we did not want to be redistricted mid-decade. It was a waste of money. It was a waste of time and resources. So the fact that they still voted yes, even though Hoosiers have been flooding their emails and their voicemail boxes against redistricting, they still voted yes. So that tells you that they are more concerned with licking the boots of Donald Trump than they care about taking care of Hoosiers. So they should not be in office because they are a public servant. And if they are more concerned about working their way up the Republican ladder by licking the boots of Donald Trump, they can do that, but they're not going to do it on Hoosiers' dimes. So we need to get them out of office, because public servants should be, as it sounds, there to serve the public, not their own interests. So let me get, what I'm looking for now is the actual list of how every senator voted, because I want to tell you who actually voted for this bullshit. The people who voted yes, so on HB 1032, on its third reading today, were Senator Alexander, Alting, Baldwin, Brown, Bush, Byron, it's Byrne, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, Carrasco, Donato, Freeman, Garton, Gaskill, Johnson, Koch, or Conch, I'm not sure how you say Koch, Maxwell, Raz, it's spelled Raatz, Schmidt, Tomes, Young, and Zay are all of the state Indiana senators who voted yes to redistricting. These are the people who do not care about being a public servant. These are the people who are in politics for the wrong reasons, because the people who need to be in politics are those who are there to actually serve the public as a public servant, as the job description requires. So all of the people I just named need to be voted out of office. I will make more videos about this because I am dead serious about this. I am done with politicians who are just in it for their own self-gain. They are not actually in it to be a public servant, because every single person who is a politician 100% of the time should only be voting yes on things that benefit Hoosiers. If it does not benefit Hoosiers, it should not be voted yes on. And if they are voting yes on those things, especially when it hurts Hoosiers, that means they're getting things like kickbacks from other companies or money from lobbyists or PACs to vote that way. So this is why we need to pay attention to what our state senators are doing. All of the other state senators, including my representative, Elle Jackson, she voted against redistricting. So I thank you for listening to your constituents, as well as so bad at pronouncing names. But here are the people who actually stood up against the regime and did their jobs. They are Basler, Becker, Bohek, I think that's how you say it. It's Bohacek, Bray, Buchanan, Buck. I have no idea how you say this. Charbonneau. That is probably not at all how you say that. Clark, Kreider, Deary, Dernulc, Droit, Ford, JD Ford, Glick, Goad, Holdman, Hunley, Lakeisha Jackson, Lysing, Mishler, Niemeyer, Niezgodski. It's Niezgodski, Pohl, and then we have, oh goodness, Kadora. I'm so sorry for butchering these names. Qaddoura, Randolph, Roger, Spencer, Taylor, Walker G, Walker K, and Yoder. These are all the people who voted against redistricting, and this is a huge win. This is a huge win, because that means that our senators actually listen to us, and this shows you that your voice does matter. Your opinions do matter, and if we really want something, if we bug our state senators enough, they will do it. Yes, this is a huge thing. I am so glad to see that gerrymandering, at least in some way, was defeated in Indiana, and that Indiana state senators stood up to this dictator in this country. We need to vote out all the senators who voted for this, these 19 senators who voted yes to redistrict, because Hoosiers made it abundantly clear that we did not want to be redistricted. So the fact that they still voted for this shows their alliance is with nothing but the Republican Party and making themselves richer or more powerful. So that is unacceptable for a public servant. You need to be into politics for the right reasons. It is no longer okay to just be this career politician who is out of touch with everything and doesn't listen to the constituents, especially when they have overwhelmingly made themselves clear over and over and over again. It's like, I don't know how many times we have to tell these senators before they're gonna freaking listen. I just hope it doesn't come back, because I know that Donald Trump is like having a little pity party, and I'm sure JD Vance is as well, because JD Vance came here like 2 or 3 times to try to get us to redistrict, to steal the seats. And I'm like, man, if they only spent that much time getting better policies, they wouldn't have to worry about redistricting Indiana. If they just put their energy into helping the American people, they wouldn't have this problem. It's really freaking simple. I don't know why this was even an issue in the first place. It seems absurd to me, the level of BS that happens sometimes. RadX4 just said Indiana and Texas are the testing ground, and that is 100% accurate. I believe that the way that the Republican Party tests things is it will start it in Indiana or Texas, usually Texas, and then if it passes in Texas, then they try to do it in Indiana. I think it's because they think that it's a very strong Republican stronghold. And really, Indiana isn't a Republican stronghold. What it is that we have a lot of people who believe that their vote doesn't matter, because we have been told that for years and years and years, is that if you are a Democrat in Indiana, that your vote does not matter. And that's just not true. 40% of Hoosiers voted for a Democrat last election. So that's not as big of a gap as honestly people thought. And it really seems to be more of an apathy issue than it is everyone's MAGA and everyone is red issue, because where I live now, it is more blue than anything else, because 7 out of 10 people in Indianapolis identify as Democrat. So you know that even if we got just Indianapolis out to vote, it could change an election, because our turnout is so poor, especially on non-presidential years. We have either the last or the second to last every year on voter turnout, consistently for decades at this point. We have voter turnouts in like 17, I think, was the lowest one on a non-presidential year for a turnout. It's absolutely crazy. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why. So the people in power don't want better voter turnout, because the people who are voting are Republican, and that is who is in power right now. The people who want better voter turnout are the Democrats, because they know that if people are actually paying attention, they will vote Democrat. And that is actually how I became a recovered Republican. I was not paying attention. And I lost my first husband to COVID-19. And it was like somebody pulled a veil off of my eyes, because I no longer could ignore the inconsistencies and the cognitive dissonance that I had been ignoring previously. And it led me down a rabbit hole to deconstruct what I believed in, as well as it led me down a rabbit hole to fact check what politicians were saying. And what I realized is that all of these Republican politicians were being untruthful and voting against the will of the people and voting against what was good for the American people. And they were even voting against things that they said they were for. For example, they say they're the party of financial responsibility. But if that's true, why do they keep giving out all of this corporate welfare and providing, universal health care for Israel? I'm not sure how providing universal health care for Israel is helping Americans in any way, shape, or form. It led me down to realize that people really need to pay attention, and that yes, politics can be boring at times, and that's part of the reason I started influencing about it, was to try to make it a little bit more interesting, but also give you the information that you really need to know in short little snippets, because people are busy and don't have time to research. So I'm trying to provide you guys things that I think are important that you can share with other people, so that hopefully we can lead people to start questioning like I did and create more recovered Republicans, and to get people more actively involved. Because when people are more actively involved, they are more likely to see what their politicians are doing, and more likely to vote Democrat, and more likely to vote in general. Oh yeah, once you start drinking the Kool-Aid, you can't. It's crazy. So it's so hard to break out of that. And I think one thing people don't realize is a lot of people are kind of born in it. If you were raised religious like I was, it kind of comes with the territory, because a lot of churches in Indiana actually preach from the pulpit. And basically it is made very, very clear that if you are a good Christian, then you are voting Republican, despite the fact that Democratic values actually align more closely to what Jesus was like in the Bible than anything that the Republicans do. You also have to realize that when we're talking about people who are MAGA, usually that means that their politics are tied in with their morality and how they view the world. So if you come at them saying that their viewpoints are wrong, they're going to shut down immediately. You are going to get nowhere. You can't do that, because essentially you're coming up to saying your morality is wrong, you are a bad person. That's what they're hearing you say. Doesn't matter what you're actually saying, that's what they're hearing. So in order to combat that, I tell people to ask questions, because and try not to sound like a jerk when you're doing it. I know it's hard sometimes, but just try to remember that a lot of these people are kind of brainwashed. It's really what it is, because of how it's like your friends are doing it, your family's doing it. It's ritualistic. And so your whole support system sometimes is a part of it. So to get out of that, it's like a cult almost. And so you have to realize that that person really has to come to it on their own thing. And you coming in hot and saying that, you know, there's a genocide happening in Palestine and Israel is causing all of this pain and suffering in the name of Jesus or whatever, and that's wrong, you're never going to get anywhere. However, you can ask, so why, if Israel is in the right, and it's because, you know, they captured all of these people, then why are they starving children? Did Hamas, did they take a bunch of children? No, they were just adults. So I'm confused. Why are they withholding medical treatment and food from people who have nothing to do with this? That just seems like cruel and unusual punishment to me, and like torture. So kind of coming at like, if you come at it from a, I don't understand, I want to understand your point of view, it's a lot easier because you can start to see where the fallacy is and where to break it down. Because another example is that, you know, I think that the separation of church and state needs to be legislated more strongly in this country. I think it is too flimsy and it is dangerous because it's threatening our freedom of religion to not have that barrier there. So when I was talking to somebody who is a MAGA person, we were discussing separation of church and state. And the way I came at it is that I started with it, you know, I've been thinking a lot about the freedom of religion and how important that part of the Constitution is, and how we need to make sure that we're not legislating things that is against someone's religion. And that person, they said, oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And I was like, oh good, that's great. So then we should never legislate anything that has to do with who you can and can't marry, as in their gender, not their ages. There definitely should be laws that you cannot get married until you're 18. I am done with the childhood bride thing. Then they should never legislate anything like that, because that's part of some people's religion, that anyone can marry anyone, and that would be infringing upon their rights. And that is how I got that person to agree with me that they should not legislate against gay marriage, because it infringes on their freedom of religion. And man, that can be a slippery slope, can it? I will say I do often lean into some of the fallacies that they are more likely to agree with as well. The other thing I think is really effective is saying, instead of saying tax the rich, say things like stop corporate welfare, stop socialism for corporations, things like that. There's a comment. Understanding the U.S. has never practiced Jesus Christianity, but the empire's appropriation of it. Absolutely. So that is absolutely true. There are so many things that you are told in churches here in America that is not part of the Bible. It's not part of Christianity at all. A great example is the fact that people think that you have to be a Republican to be Christian, when that doesn't even make logical sense. If you break down what Jesus says and what the Bible says and all of these things, the teachings of Jesus more closely align with what Democrats believe than what Republicans believe. Republicans would be like the Pharisees and the tax collectors in the Bible, the people that everyone hated because they were stealing people's money, basically. So this is why preaching it, some people, doesn't help. They know what they are doing and believe it. Yeah. Yeah. That's why you have to try to like kind of start getting them. The goal should never be to change someone's mind. The goal is always to get them to question something about what they believe so that they start to deconstruct it. And that is how you get people to start to make that journey from right to left, is you get them to deconstruct what they believe. And you have to come from a kind place, because public servants need to be public servants. I am trying to just grow the following to essentially get more reach, especially from the changes on this app, because I used to get way more views than I do. If you did not know, this app is to blue creators. And so if you see people that you like, you should share and repost their content, especially on this app, because their content is actively getting less views than right creators right now. And that is due to some algorithm changes that we knew about. The only reason I'm still posting on this app is because I still have quite a large following on this app. And so I'm just trying to get the information to you all. But I am expanding into, like, I'm doing YouTube now. I'm also on Substack now. I do Instagram and Facebook as well. Did Indiana do the right thing today? Yes, I think they did, because there was a question if these districts would have been a competitive district in Indiana, but the likelihood is that it would not, because they were trying to make all of these districts like 30 plus Republican districts. It was horrible. So the chances are that this saved Indiana from losing 2 blue seats of representation. And what I really hope happens is that I hope to see that we have some of our other districts flip to blue, because there have not been other blue districts in a very long time. It should be over. It should be. That doesn't always mean anything, because, like, I would say it should be in normal times. It would be. But when the president is calling and telling them to do these things and actively pushing, I don't know. I don't know what things they're going to try to pull. I don't know how Fort Wayne is red either. It's got to be gerrymandering. I mean, Indiana is already gerrymandered. It's just this would have been gerrymandered to the umpteenth degree. And so this is why we fought against it and why people didn't want to do it. And honestly, it was a waste of taxpayer dollars to call them in early. They don't normally meet until January. So we had to pay. It's not the only day, because today is what, Thursday? So they've met 4 days. So let's do some math here. Let me bring up a handy dandy calculator so I am correct. So it's $32,000 a day extra that was not budgeted for 4 days is, so that's an extra $128,000 this year that was not budgeted for because of this special session, because they weren't supposed to be back in session until January. So waste of taxpayer dollars. I'm tired of them. Yeah, I'm just so sick of the Republicans acting like they're the party of financial responsibility when they do shit like this. Like, it is not financially responsible to request that the Hoosier state pay this extra money that was not budgeted for this special session for something that we have made very freaking clear that we did not want. And of course, it ended with them voting against it because, again, we made it really clear. So this was absolutely a waste of taxpayer dollars. And also, I recommend everyone call Mike Braun's office. I have done this several times, and ask him to foot the bill for this stupid special session that we did not need. And it was a waste of our taxpayer dollars, because I don't think our taxes should go up because of this. So I think since Mike Braun is worth $131 million, so I think since he is worth multiple millions of dollars, that he can just foot the bill for us. And I have called his office and left that voicemail multiple times. And I really think that other people should as well. I think it's a good voicemail to leave him. If Indiana didn't have bad voter turnout, we would be a swing state is what would happen, because we have so many people who just aren't voting. So they probably don't identify as anything. We probably have a large group of people who are unidentified. And granted, I don't think that the two-party system is a good system. I think that we need ranked choice voting so that we can actually get some third-party candidates that would have a chance at winning instead of the same old, same old. I am going to head off of here, but this is a big win for Indiana. Thanks for joining me.